Ladies and gentlemen, there comes a moment in every life when the weight you are carrying becomes too heavy for your own strength. You try to hold everything together. Your plans, your fears, your expectations, your control. But deep inside, you feel the strain. You smile on the outside, yet inside you are tired. Tired of trying, tired of fixing, tired of holding on to things that seem to slip through your fingers, no matter how tightly you grasp them. And in that quiet, honest place within your heart, there is a gentle whisper calling you to release it all. So many people believe that holding on is strength. They think that if they let go, everything will fall apart. But the truth is, sometimes the greatest strength you can ever show is the courage to let go. Let go of the worry that keeps you awake at night. Let go of the fear that whispers that things will never change. Let go of the need to control every detail of your life, because there is a divine power at work, one that does not depend on your ability, your timing, or your understanding. You see, when you hold on too tightly, you leave no room for something greater to step in. You block the very help you've been praying for. You ask for peace, but you cling to anxiety. You ask for guidance, but you refuse to release control. You ask for miracles, but you keep trying to manufacture outcomes on your own. And in doing so, you exhaust yourself. Letting go does not mean giving up. It does not mean you stop caring or that you become passive. It means you shift your trusts. It means you stop relying solely on your limited perspective and begin to trust a wisdom that sees far beyond what you can see. It means you acknowledge that there is a plan unfolding, even when you cannot understand it. Think about the areas of your life where you feel the most tension, that relationship you keep trying to fix, that situation you keep trying to control, that future you keep trying to predict. What if the reason it feels so heavy is because it was never meant for you to carry it alone? What if the burden you are holding is actually an invitation to release it and allow something greater to work on your behalf? There is a profound peace that comes when you finally say, I've done all I can do. Now I trust. That moment is not weakness, it is surrender. And surrender is where transformation begins. Because when you step back, you make space for divine intervention. When you release your grip, you allow unseen hands to begin working in ways you could never accomplish on your own. Sometimes what you're holding on to is not just a situation, it's an expectation of how things should happen, when they should happen, and what the outcome should look like. And when reality doesn't match that expectation, frustration sets in. But what if the plan unfolding is far greater than the one you've imagined? What if the delay is actually protection? What if the closed door is actually redirection? You don't always see what's ahead. You don't always understand the timing, but you can trust that there is purpose in the process. Every moment, every delay, every challenge is part of something bigger than you can currently comprehend. And when you let go, you begin to align yourself with that purpose instead of fighting against it. Letting go also means releasing the past. Many people are trapped not because of what is happening now, but because of what has already happened. They replay old mistakes, old wounds, old regrets. They carry them like chains, weighing down their present and stealing their future. But you were never meant to live bound by what is behind you. There is freedom available, that it requires a decision to release it. You cannot move forward while holding on to yesterday. You cannot embrace what is ahead while clinging to what is gone. Letting go is not about forgetting. It is about trusting that what happened does not define what will happen. It is about believing that there is still goodness ahead, still purpose ahead, still opportunity ahead. And then there is fear, the fear of the unknown. The fear that if you let go, things might get worse instead of better. But consider this, fear is rooted in uncertainty, and uncertainty is simply a lack of control. When you let go, you are not stepping into chaos. You are stepping into trust. You are choosing to believe that even in uncertainty, there is a guiding hand leading you. You don't have to figure everything out. You don't have to have all the answers. You don't have to carry the weight of every outcome. Your responsibility is to be faithful in what you can do and trust in what you cannot. There is a peace that comes from that kind of trust, a peace that does not depend on circumstances but on confidence in something greater. And when you finally release what you've been holding, something remarkable happens. You begin to see things change, not always immediately, not always in the way you expected, but in ways that reveal a deeper purpose. Doors begin to open that you could not open yourself. Paths begin to appear where there seemed to be none. Solutions begin to unfold that you could not have designed. You realize that what you thought was falling apart was actually falling into place. What you thought was a setback was actually a setup. What you thought was an ending was actually a beginning. So today, whatever you are holding on to, release it, release the worry, release the fear, release the past, release the burden that was. Release the past, release the burden that was, never meant for you to carry. And trust that as you let go, something far greater is already at work, moving, arranging, and aligning things in ways you cannot yet see, but will one day understand. True strength is often misunderstood. Many people grow up believing that strength means holding everything together, no matter how heavy it becomes. They believe it means never showing weakness, never stepping back, and never releasing control. They carry burdens far longer than they should, convinced that if they just try harder, push more, and hold tighter, things will eventually work out. But over time, that way of living begins to wear them down. It drains their energy, clouds their thinking, and fills their hearts with quiet frustration. What they once called strength slowly becomes exhaustion. There is a deeper truth that many only discover after they have reached their limit. Strength is not always about holding on. Sometimes strength is found in the decision to let go. Letting go requires a different kind of courage, the kind that goes against your instincts, your fears, and your desire for control. It requires you to admit that you do not have all the answers, that you cannot fix everything, and that some things are beyond your ability to manage. This kind of surrender is not weakness. In fact, it is one of the most powerful choices a person can make. It takes far more courage to release control than it does to cling to it. Holding on often feels safer because it gives the illusion that you are in charge. But that illusion can trap you. It keeps you stuck in cycles of stress and worry, constantly trying to manage outcomes that were never meant to be in your hands. When you begin to let go, you are not abandoning responsibility. You are shifting your trust. You are recognizing that there is a greater wisdom at work, one that sees beyond your limited perspective, or choosing to believe that even when you cannot see the way forward, there is a path being prepared. This shift does not happen easily. It requires you to confront your fears. The fear of losing control, the fear of uncertainty, the fear that things might not turn out the way you want. But consider what holding on has been costing you. Think about the sleepless nights, the constant overthinking, the tension that never seems to leave your mind or body. Think about how often you replay situations, trying to find solutions that never fully satisfy. That is the weight of control. That is what happens when you try to carry everything on your own. Letting go brings a different kind of experience. It brings relief. It allows your mind to rest and your heart to breathe again. It creates space for clarity, for peace, and for new possibilities. When you release what you cannot control, you begin to focus on what truly matters: your actions, your character, your faith, and your willingness to trust the process. There is also a quiet confidence that begins to grow when you let go. It is not loud or boastful. It is steady and calm. It says, I may not understand everything, but I trust that things are being handled. That kind of confidence changes how you face challenges. Instead of reacting with panic or frustration, you respond with patience. Instead of trying to force outcomes, you allow them to unfold. You start to see that many of the things you were trying to control were never yours to begin with. Other people's choices, the timing of events, the outcome of situations. These are not things you can fully manage. And when you stop trying to control them, you free yourself from a burden that was never meant for you. Letting go also opens the door for growth. When you are no longer consumed with controlling every detail, you become more present. You begin to notice opportunities you once overlooked. You become more aware of the lessons in your experiences. You grow stronger, not because you're holding everything together, but because you are learning to trust in something greater than yourself. There will be moments when letting go feels uncomfortable. Your instincts may tell you to grab control again, to fix, to force, to figure everything out. But in those moments, you have a choice. You can return to the old way of carrying everything on your own, or you can remain in that place of trust, even when it feels uncertain. Over time, you will begin to see the difference. You will notice how situations resolve in ways you did not expect. You will see how doors open without your effort, how problems find solutions without your constant interference. You will realize that what once felt impossible becomes manageable when you are not trying to handle it alone. True strength is not about proving that you can carry everything. It is about knowing when to release what is too heavy and trusting that it will be taken care of. It is about standing firm in faith rather than in fear. It is about choosing peace over pressure, trust over control, and surrender over struggle. And as you continue to practice this kind of strength, you will find that your life begins to change in subtle but powerful ways. You will feel lighter, calmer, and more grounded. You will no longer be driven by the need to control every outcome, but by a quiet assurance that everything is unfolding as it should. When you release worry, fear, and the constant need to control everything, something extraordinary begins to happen within you. At first, it may feel unfamiliar, even uncomfortable, because you have spent so much of your life believing that control equals security. You have trained your mind to think that if you can just manage every detail, anticipate every problem, mim and prepare for every outcome, then you can protect yourself from disappointment. But the reality is that kind of control often creates the very anxiety you are trying to avoid. Worry has a way of convincing you that it is useful. It whispers that if you keep thinking about the problem long enough, you will eventually find the perfect solution. It keeps you in a loop, replaying scenarios, imagining worst-case outcomes, and trying to mentally solve things that are not yet in your control. Fear works alongside it, amplifying every uncertainty and turning small concerns into overwhelming burdens. Together, they create a cycle that drains your energy and steals your peace. The need to control everything is often rooted in that fear. It is a response to uncertainty, an attempt to create stability in a world that does not always follow your plans. But when you try to control everything, you take on a responsibility that was never meant to be yours. You begin to believe that everything depends on you, that every outcome is your burden to carry, and that belief becomes exhausting. There is a turning point that comes when you realize that your constant effort is not producing the peace you desire. Instead, it is producing stress, tension, and a sense of being overwhelmed. That realization opens a door to a new way of living, a way that begins with release. Releasing worry does not mean you stop caring about your life or your responsibilities. It means you stop obsessing over things you cannot change in the moment. It means you choose to focus your energy on what is within your reach, rather than what is beyond it. Releasing fear is a deeper step. Fear often feels powerful because it is tied to the unknown. It makes you believe that if you let go, something will go wrong. But fear is not a reliable guide. It is based on possibilities, not certainties. When you choose T. Release fear, you are not denying that challenges exist. You are choosing not to let those challenges control your thoughts and actions. Letting go of control is perhaps the most difficult part. Control gives a false sense of security. It makes you feel like you are in charge, even when circumstances prove otherwise. But true peace does not come from control. It comes from trust. Trust that there is a greater order at work. Trust that every greater order at work Trust that not everything needs your intervention. Trust that some things are being handled in ways you cannot see. When you begin to release these burdens, you create space within yourself. Space that was once filled with anxiety is now open for peace. Space that was once occupied by fear is now available for faith. This space is where something greater can begin to work. It is where clarity replaces confusion, where calm replaces chaos, and where solutions begin to emerge naturally. You may not notice a change immediately. At first, it may feel like nothing is happening. But beneath the surface, things are shifting. Your perspective begins to change. You start to see situations differently. What once seemed overwhelming begins to feel manageable. What once caused panic begins to invite patience. There is also a shift in how you respond to life. Instead of reacting out of fear or urgency, you begin to respond with calmness and confidence. You no longer feel the need to rush every decision or force every outcome. You become more grounded, more centered, and more aware of what truly matters. As you continue to release worry, fear, and control, you will begin to notice that things start to align in unexpected ways. Opportunities appear at the right time. Solutions come when you need them. People enter your life who provide support, guidance, or encouragement. These are not coincidences. They are the result of creating space for something gray. Aided to work, you also begin to understand that not everything needs to be solved immediately. Some things require time, some things require patience, and some things require you to step back and allow them to unfold. When you are no longer trying to force everything into your timeline, you begin to appreciate the natural rhythm of life. This does not mean that challenges disappear. Life will still present difficulties, uncertainties, and moments of doubt. But your relationship with those challenges changes. You no longer see them as threats that must be controlled at all costs. Instead, you see them as part of a process that you do not have to manage alone. There is a quiet strength that comes from this way of living. It is not about being passive or indifferent. It is about being intentional with your energy and your trust. It is about knowing when to act and when to release. It is about understanding that your role is to do your part and then step back and allow the rest to unfold. And in that space of release, something powerful begins to happen. You begin to experience a peace that does not depend on your circumstances, a peace that remains steady even when things are uncertain, a peace that reminds you that you are not alone in this journey and that there is a greater force working behind the scenes, arranging, guiding, and bringing things together in ways you could never accomplish on your own. Letting go of the past, your expectations, and your attachment to specific outcomes is one of the most transformative decisions you can ever make. Yet it is also one of the most difficult. The past has a powerful hold on the human heart. It is filled with memories, some joyful, some painful, and some that linger in between. For many, it becomes a place they revisit again and again, either longing for what once was or regretting what could have been. Without you even realizing it, they allow those memories to shape how they see themselves in their future. Holding on to the past often feels natural because it is familiar. Even if it was painful, it is known territory. But what many fail to recognize is that constantly looking back can keep you from moving forward. When you carry old regrets, you carry unnecessary weight. When you cling to past mistakes, you limit your belief in what is possible ahead. When you hold on to past hurt, you allow it to continue affecting your present. Letting go of the past does not mean you erase it. It means you release its control over you. It means you stop defining yourself by what has already happened and begin to see yourself in light of what can still happen. Your past may have shaped you, but it does not have to confine you. There is more ahead of you than what is behind you, but you must be willing to loosen your grip on yesterday to fully embrace tomorrow. In the same way, expectations can quietly become a burden. Everyone has an idea of how life should go, how relationships should work, how opportunities should unfold, how success should look. These expectations often form early and become deeply rooted. But when life does not follow that script, disappointment sets in. You begin to feel frustrated, confused, or even discouraged, not necessarily because something is wrong, but because it is different from what you imagined. The danger of rigid expectations is that they limit your ability to see new possibilities. When you are too focused on one specific outcome, you may overlook something better that is right in front of you. You may resist change because it does not match your plan, even when that change is leading you towards something greater. Expectations can blind you, keeping you tied to an idea rather than open to a reality that could exceed it. Letting go of expectations is not about lowering your standards or giving up on your desires. It is about holding them with open hands rather than a tight grip. It is about being willing to say, "This is what I hope for, but I trust that there may be something even better that I cannot yet see." That kind of openness allows you to move with life rather than against it. Attachment to outcomes is closely connected to expectations. It is the need for things to turn out a certain way in order for you to feel at peace. It is the belief that your happiness depends on specific results. This attachment creates pressure. It makes every situation feel like it carries a heavy weight because so much is riding on how it turns out. When you are attached to outcomes, you may find yourself trying to control every step of the process. You may become anxious when things do not go as planned. You may struggle to accept changes even when they are necessary. And when the outcome does not match your expectation, it can feel like a failure, even if something valuable has been gained along the way. Letting go of that attachment brings freedom. It allows you to engage fully in the present moment without being consumed by the future. It allows you to give your best effort without tying your sense of worth or peace to the result. You begin to understand that your role is to act with integrity, faith, and diligence, and then release the outcome. This shift changes how you experience life. You become less reactive and more responsive. You begin to appreciate the journey instead of constantly rushing toward a destination. You find meaning not just in what happens, but in how you grow through what happens. There's also a deeper level of trust that develops when you release the past, expectations, and outcomes. You begin to believe that there is a purpose unfolding, even when it does not align with your original plan. You start to see that detours are not necessarily setbacks, but redirections. That delays are not necessarily denials, but preparation. That endings are not necessarily losses, but transitions into something new. This kind of trust does not come overnight. It is built over time through experiences where you let go and then see how things come together in unexpected ways. It is strengthened each time you choose faith over fear, openness over resistance, and surrender over control. As you continue on this path, you will notice a sense of lightness entering your life. The weight of the past begins to lift, the pressure of expectations to lift, the pressure of expectations begins to ease. The anxiety of outcomes begins to fade. In its place, there is a quiet confidence, a belief that you are being guided, that you are not alone, and that your life is moving in a direction that has meaning and purpose. You will still have goals, dreams, and desires, but they will no longer control you. Instead, they will inspire you. You will pursue them with passion, but you will also hold them with peace, knowing that whatever unfolds, there is something valuable in it for you. And as you let go more fully, you will find yourself stepping into a greater sense of freedom, where you are no longer bound by what was, no longer restricted by what you expected, and no longer anxious about what must be, but open, present, and ready to embrace what is yet to come. Trusting in the unseen process is one of the most profound challenges a person can face because it requires you to believe in something you cannot yet see, touch, or fully understand. Human nature leans towards certainty. You want clear answers, visible progress, and immediate results. You want to know where you are going, how things will turn out, and when everything will finally make sense. But life does not always operate within those boundaries, and often the most important work is happening beneath the surface, far beyond your view. Uncertainty has a way of testing your patience and your faith at the same time. When doors close unexpectedly, when opportunities are delayed, or when situations seem to stand still, it is easy to assume that nothing is happening. It is easy to feel forgotten, overlooked, or even stuck. In those moments, your mind may begin to question everything. You may wonder if you made the wrong choices, if you missed your chance, or if things will ever change. But what you cannot see does not mean nothing is happening. There is a process at work that does not rely on your visibility. Just as a seed grows underground before it ever breaks through the surface, there are things being prepared in your life that are not yet visible. Growth is taking place in ways that are quiet, steady, and intentional. And often the most important developments happen in silence, away from the spotlight of your awareness. Trusting this unseen process requires you to shift your focus. Instead of looking for constant evidence, you begin to rely on confidence. Instead of demanding immediate results, you learn to embrace patience. You begin to understand that timing is not always aligned with your expectations, but that does not mean it is wrong. In fact, timing often plays a critical role in ensuring that things come together in the right way. Delays can feel frustrating, especially when you are ready for change. You may feel like you have done everything you can, yet nothing seems to move forward. But delays are not always obstacles. Sometimes they are protection. They may be preventing you from stepping into something before you are ready. They may be aligning circumstances in a way that will make the outcome more beneficial than you originally imagined. What feels like a pause may actually be preparation. Closed doors can car. A similar weight of confusion when something you hoped for does not happen. It is natural to feel disappointed. You may question why it did not work out, especially if it seemed right to you. But not every closed door is a rejection. Some are redirections. They guide you away from paths that are not meant for you and toward ones that hold greater purpose. Even though you may not understand it in the moment, there is often a reason behind what does not happen. Uncertainty itself can be unsettling because it leaves room for doubt. Without clear answers, your mind may try to fill in the gaps with fear. It may imagine worst-case scenarios or convince you that things are not going to improve, but uncertainty also holds a possibility. It means that the future is not fixed in a negative direction. It means that things can change, that new opportunities can arise, and that outcomes can exceed your expectations. Trusting in the unseen process means choosing not to let uncertainty control you. It means acknowledging that you do not have all the answers, but still moving forward with confidence. It means believing that there is a greater plan unfolding, even when it does not make sense in the moment. This kind of trust transforms your inner world. Instead of being overwhelmed by what you cannot control, you begin to feel grounded in what you can trust. Instead of reacting to every delay or disappointment with frustration, you respond with patience and resilience. You begin to see life not as a series of random events, but as a journey guided by purpose. There is also a peace that comes from this trust. It is not dependent on circumstances or outcomes. It is steady, even when things are uncertain. It allows you to rest knowing that you are not alone in navigating your path. It reassures you that even when you cannot see the way forward, there is a direction being prepared. Over time, you may begin to look back and recognize how things came together in ways you did not expect. You may see how delays worked in your favor, how closed doors protected you, and how uncertainty led you to opportunities you could not have planned. These realizations strengthen your trust, making it easier to rely on the unseen process in the future. You begin to understand that not everything needs to be revealed at once. Some things unfold step by step, moment by moment. And in that unfolding, there is growth. Not just in your circumstances, but within you. You become more patient, more resilient, and more open to the journey. Trusting the unseen does not mean you will never have doubts. There will still be moments when you question, when you wonder, and when you feel uncertain. But even in those moments, you have a choice. You can allow doubt to take over, or you can return to trust. You can remind yourself that just because you cannot see it does not mean it is not working. And as you continue to walk in that trust, you will find that peace becomes your foundation, not because everything is clear, but because you have learned to believe that clarity will come in its time, and that every step you are taking, even the uncertain ones, is leading you exactly where you need to be in the end. Everything comes down to a simple but life-changing decision. Whether you will continue carrying what was never meant for you, or whether you will finally release it and trust that something greater is already at work. You have spent enough time trying to control every detail, trying to fix every situation, trying to hold everything together with your own strength. And yet, despite all your effort, there have been moments when you still felt overwhelmed, uncertain, and weary. That is because you were never designed to live under that kind of pressure. There is a freedom, waiting for you, but it begins with surrender, not a surrender of defeat, but a surrender of trust, a decision to stop fighting battles that are beyond your control and to start believing that you are not alone in the process. When you let go of worry, you make room for peace. When you release fear, you make room for courage. When you stop clinging to the past and rigid expectations, you open yourself to a future that holds far more than you can currently imagine. Every burden you release becomes an opportunity for something greater to take its place. Every step of trust you take, even when it feels uncertain, moves you closer to a life marked by calmness, clarity, and purpose. You begin to realize that you do not have to force everything to happen. You do not have to figure everything out. There is a divine order, a perfect timing, and a greater plan that continues to unfold even when you cannot see it. The delays you once questioned begin to make sense. The closed doors you once resisted begin to reveal their purpose. The uncertainty you once feared begins to feel like a space filled with possibility. And through it all, you start to see that what seemed like setbacks were actually setups, preparing you for something far better than you had planned for yourself. This journey is not about having all the answers. It is about having the faith to move forward without them. It is about choosing peace over pressure, trust over control, and surrender over struggle. And as you live in that place of trust, you will discover a strength that is deeper, steadier, and far more powerful than anything you could have created on your own. So release what you have been holding, trust what you cannot yet see, and allow what is meant for you to unfold in its perfect time. Because when you finally let go, you will witness a power at work in your life that changes everything.